You're watching Sun TV, broadcasting to the world from studios in Providenciales, in the beautiful by nature Turks and Caicos Islands. Sun TV, your source for real news as it happens.
I'm Tadleen Dafferlin, and thanks for watching this edition of Sun TV News. Fortis TCI says it will look to see what it can do regarding compensating customers who are affected by Sunday's power outage, which was triggered by a massive engine room fire at its Leeward Highway plant and which caused a blackout on the island of Providenciales. Several businesses and households were without power for most of Sunday, February 9th and many hours on Monday, February 10th. Addington Powell, Chief Executive Officer of Fortis, told a media conference on Monday that his company understands and sympathizes with customers who may want compensation. However, he noted that under the ordinance which regulates Fortis, it would have to be a case of negligence on the company's part in order for a strong case to be made for compensation.
The compensation process and policy is a straightforward one. You make your application with support documentation for compensation. The ordinance is specific in regards to the company's liability under these circumstances. In other words, it would have to be the fault and negligence of the company for the company to be liable for compensation. But look here. We live in a real world. We understand our customers have real issues, and we will look to see what we can do for our customers. But the ordinance is quite clear in terms of our liability. It would have to be, as I said, something attributable directly to negligence on our part, not system failures, because, as I said before, electrical systems will fail. That's a certainty. But as I said, we live in a real world. We understand that our customers, many of them may have suffered a great loss. We suffered a great loss. We have, when I can't sell electricity, I'm not making any money. And so we're suffering financial loss as well. So we have to look at that. But I understand the question, where the question comes from. And I'm sympathetic to the question.
It was around 11:55 a.m. on Sunday, February 9th, when an explosion and electrical fire occurred in one of the engine rooms. The fire was put out and then some troubleshooting began to determine the cause. Fortis workmen had to isolate the switchgear room, which caused them to shut down some of the engines and resulted in power being lost to some areas throughout Provo. At 1:38 p.m. on Sunday, there was a major fault with one of the main underground cables leading to a substation. The cable fault, along with the fire, resulted in the entire plant being shut down. Powell said that Fortis had some very good equipment that is up to the industry standards, but he added that no electricity system in the world is immune from fault. He said there was really nothing they could have done to stop the power outage, adding that it could have been much worse. He told reporters that they were trying hard to ensure that power was restored to all of Providenciales by the end of Monday, but there were no guarantees.
Let me remind you that no electrical system anywhere in the world is immune from technical failures. Vertically integrated electrical systems, even with redundancies and protections and controls, will fail at some point. This was a catastrophic failure. It could not have gotten any worse, and we'll discuss the event that has led to where we are today. But I would like to assure the country that we are working literally around the clock to fix this. Resources are being focused and redeployed. We've actually moved resources from Grand Turk here to Provo to assist us in this. And all resources available are being deployed to fix this problem. But it is going to take time. The nature of the technical failures will require that they take some time. And if we're lucky, we can have this done by the end of business day. If all of the stars line up, if we're not, it's going to take some time beyond that. There was a failure in an underground cable which leads from one of our units to the bus bar in the substation. And that caused an explosion and fire in one of our electrical rooms. We call it ER3. We were actually fortunate that we had it happen in late Sunday morning. Very fortunate actually, we actually had people on the plant working who was able to respond to the fire and actually put the fire out and limiting the damage that could have otherwise have caused. Now that would have been serious if in fact we hadn't had got that fire out. But it was an underground duct, a cable, underground cable in an underground duct bank that failed. We're not sure why it failed, whether or not it was due to age of the cable. It is in fact in the older section of our plant. But our plant is a very sophisticated system, and there's the numerous underground cables running across the system that will fail from time to time. This one is particularly old, and we think that it just failed because of age.
Describing the power outage as the worst since he has been at Fortis TCI, Powell said everything that could have gone wrong went wrong.
It is certainly the worst outage in my history since I've been here. It is a very, I could not think of anything that could have gone wrong that didn't have gone wrong, this situation. We lost the first, we lost ER3, which we thought then we could have isolated that and worked around that and kept the generation going. And you can see from the timeline, by 1:30, 1:38, we lost ER1 and ER3, which is engine room 1 and ER1 and ER2. That second incident then brought the plant down. So where we thought we knew we had a problem with fire and explosion in ER3. We thought we could have survived and we had limited outage and try to fix the problem and actually get the customers back on. But when that second incident happened and we lost then the system, that failed cable to the bus bar, then we knew we were in trouble.
The Fortis CEO, who is a native of the Cayman Islands, outlined some of the areas where power was restored in Providencia Islands.
Power was restored to what we call P7, PP7, which feeds a hospital, and we want to make sure that area gets back up because of the hospital and the airport, and those areas was returned. There was power to a certain section of Grace Bay. Blue Hills had power back pretty quickly as well in this first or second round of restoration. But there were certain areas that, unfortunately, even now as I speak, didn't have power that wasn't restored in the initial round of restoration. 5 Keys is one of those areas. Some of the Lower Bight is part of that area. And we attempted to do some load shading, but we ran into stability problems, and we stopped that process because what we want to do is essentially share the available power around to our customers. But there were certain stability problems that we ran into. And instead of losing the plant again, which we were concerned about, we did not want to lose the plant again. We didn't want to have another 100% shutdown. So when we tried to do that, we ran into some stability issue and actually lost a phase, a loss of feeder, and decided we better stop that attempt at feeder load shading rotation and focus on restoring generation. So that's what we focus on. The restoration generation.
Powell thanked customers for their patience and understanding during the blackout, noting that it was unfortunate that it occurred during the tourist season and will impact on guests.
I would like to thank our customers for their patience. We are fully aware of the impact that this have on you, our customers, in your homes and in your businesses. And we're also cognizant that this is high tourism season, and the impact that it has on our guests and visitors to Turks and Caicos. But let me assure you that you have the best professionals in the business working on this, as I say, literally around the clock. And we hope to have this resolved and return to normalcy as quickly as possible.
The Fortis CEO said they have not yet made an assessment of the cause of the damage to Fortis, but he said he was more concerned about the cause of the interruptions to customers.
The financial damage is going to be significant. There's absolutely no question about that. But more importantly for us is the damage that, that interruption in the service to our customers. That's to us is the greatest damage. You really can't quantify that. We pride ourselves in 99.99% reliability. And we pride ourselves that the power and energy is there to our customers and to the tourists of the island when they need it. And when it's not there, it is really a serious situation for us. So the financial cost is one thing. We'll tally that up when this is all said and done. But it is a cost really to the interruption of service to our customers that is most important.
Michael Polonio, the senior engineer at Fortis, explained that luckily no one was in the engine room when the fire occurred. He also took the media on the tour of the room where the fire occurred and explained the seriousness of the incident and how it caused such major disruption.
ER3, the electrical room, which we are going to offer to show you this afternoon, did not have anyone in there at that time when the explosion happened. It's not a room that is normally that has personnel in there. It's just an electrical room with switchgear. The room has protections. It has cameras, so it's visible from the control room that is manned, and it also has fire sensing equipment and automatic dowsing. That fire sensing equipment sensed the flame, and the discharge did happen. But the extent of the explosion, the arcing, was so violent that it blew off the back, so very secured covers on the switchgear, which we'll show you. And even after the discharge of FM 2000, it's an inert gas had happened, there was still some flames. So we had personnel on the compound working on generation units. In fact, one of our largest units, the Wartsila G12, was down, and for a 20,000-hour maintenance, that is what contributed to a part of this problem. We have to do maintenance to make the unit reliable. But those persons went at a certain time. Those persons rushed to the scene and took up CO2 canisters and completed the dousing of the flames. The explosion blew off that cover. It was that violent. And the flame shot out, as you can see, and that's scarring the panel next to the side. When we had to, it was still a very live bus bar at 4,160 volts. We can't touch it, or it is frying whoever touches it, until it was de-energized. So we have fire sensing systems that sense and reacted to the smoke and the flame, and this FM 2000, that's a fire protection system, sprayed out and it blanketed the area. But notwithstanding, as I explained, the explosion was so violent. These are the residual pieces that were damaged. In a sense, this insulator is like it's an arrestor. When it's whole, it starts up and look like that third one. And in the explosion that happened, you can see that this one blew off that piece. Okay? This one blew off that piece, and the other pieces from that is all over the place. Okay? And so this was and this is some of the damage that the guys had to remove after we de-energize the bus bar and replace. It takes, and they have to clean all the smoke and the sun, and you can still see the residue of the firefighting that happened. And this was what initially occurred, and we tried to keep the problem limited to here. But before we could complete the work on this, we developed other problems that Mr. Powell described. When a piece of underground cable started to burn, because that was probably the source of the fault in the first instance that made this switchgear arrestor explode, because it's one interconnected high voltage system. So when the secondary problem showed up, we had no choice but to kill, that's the term we use, to de-energize the entire plant in order for the guys to work safely to repair these damages. And it took hours of work. So this is just, now this is just one of the safe working areas that I can bring you to. Where we have the underground cable, you can't see it, it's in underground, it's in trenches, and where it terminates is in a high voltage substation at ridiculously high voltages. It's too dangerous to go in without adequate training. So I can't show you that part, but this is where it started.
Well, that's our Sun TV News Brief for today. Join us again tomorrow when we bring you real news as it happens directly to your computer, mobile device, or smartphone. If you know anyone living overseas who would like to keep up with what is happening in the Turks and Caicos Islands, get them to email us at sun@suntcr.com so we can add them to our mailing list to get Sun TV News. Thanks for watching. I'm Tanya Dafford.